Oh, hi! Guess what, guys? It's fall! My favorite time of year! So between now and Thanksgiving, if it's not about gourds, changing leaves, or flannel, it's canceled. Spring lovers, don't at me. So I have a topic for you guys today that has caught my attention and continues to catch my attention, which is the topic of attention. Think for a moment about all of the things you clicked on today. Why did you click on them? Why did you click on this? It's kind of a miracle because I'm sure you have 8 million other things that you could be giving your attention to right now. Not that you should, of course. I would argue that one of the biggest forces that is shaping our modern world is our attention. Your attention is so valuable that in every corner of society, someone's trying to get a piece of it. Politicians, scientists, tech companies, journalists, artists, YouTubers, the list goes on. And look, that's not always a bad thing. I mean, we have to put our attention somewhere, and sometimes these attention-seeking forces have something valuable to offer us, but other times, and probably most times, they do not. So on today's Indirect Message, I want to take a closer look at attention. How did it become so valuable, and what kinds of things capture our attention and pull us in? You've probably heard the term attention economy by now. And to really sink our teeth into what that is, let's think for just a moment like an economist. Economists study how scarce resources are allocated. Resources like food or housing, money, attention. In today's world, there's nearly infinite demand for our attention, and yet each of us only has so much of it to give. Even if you were, a robot person who never got distracted and who never had to sleep, would still only have 24 hours a day to give, right? So who do we give it to? The race is on to determine who can get the most of our attention. This is, of course, why people do incredibly stupid things online on YouTube for attention.
Got him. You just got pranked. Just got pranked.
It's also why Yahoo allegedly tests 45,000 headlines every 5 minutes. It's also why companies like Spotify offer us a free version. It's not really free, is it? We're paying, not with money, but with attention. So in this sense, the attention economy is one of indirect transactions. It's powered largely by advertising. For instance, in 2019, Google made $160 billion. But did you give Google any money? They made most of that money by showing us ads. We don't really think of Google as an advertising company, but in some ways, that's what it is. Which is all to say, the more attention we give something, the more valuable it becomes, the more power it has. This goes for anything in an attention economy. And that's why I think it's so important to be aware of how our attention can be manipulated against our own interests. If we're going by numbers, the social media giants like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are basically the kings of our attention, the dominatrix, if you will. Not only do we give them our attention constantly, even when it hurts, but we grovel when we can't. And this is partly because, as I've discussed before in this series, social media is addictive, deliberately so. All that dinging and pinging and ringing and zinging does affect our brains. It is basically some kind of zombie thought control experiment that we are all a part of. We're also addicted to the feed, just scrolling and waiting for something to fill us up, make us feel whole, give us that little shot of dopamine that we've been looking for. So I wanted to introduce you guys to an old friend of mine. His name is Ben Parr, and he's the former editor-at-large at Mashable. He also wrote a really interesting book called Captivology. It's about the science of capturing attention. So we're going to quickly cliff notes the 7 triggers that are used to capture and manipulate our attention. Trigger number 1 is called automaticity.
If you hear a gunshot in the air, you will automatically duck. It's a reflex, but it's also our attention trying to protect us. Because thousands of years ago, when we saw like a rustle in the bushes, catching that was either going to help us get our next meal or was going to help us protect us from like the next predator. And so that was how our attention has been tuned to protect ourselves. Modern day, we don't have saber-toothed tigers stalking us, but we're still looking for that new and novel information.
TLDR, our attention to novel information, including colors and sounds, is a survival instinct, and so it is very easily exploited. Number 2 is framing. We are drawn to things that appeal to our cultural norms and our values, and this is especially potent when it's combined with FOMO.
It's social engineering in a way. No one wants to feel like they're left out. They're going to pay attention to the things that their friends are seeing and doing and want that sense of validation as well, wherever they are. You don't want to miss something for whatever reason, even though 90% of the time you just don't care. FOMO plays a really, really strong part in our perception of attention and, more importantly, in how we perceive the value of things.
Trigger number 3 is disruption. Ben argues that this is probably the most important trigger after automaticity.
We pay attention to things that violate our expectations. And so this comes back to the original discussion we had about food or threat. If something violates our expectations of the world, we pay attention to it because of our fight or flight, of our defense response. And so you really pay attention to these things that are out of place. This is why like shock jock, shock value really does capture attention. You're seeing it in politics, you're seeing it in certain marketing tactics. You overuse it, it loses its value, but in the right kinds of ways and situations, people really pay attention.
As an example of this, he describes a campaign by Patagonia called Don't Buy This Jacket. It sort of piques your curiosity, right? It was a really effective marketing stunt that called attention to their eco-friendly practices. Trigger number 4, the reward trigger. The reward trigger. Why is that so hard to say? We are drawn to things that offer us extrinsic or intrinsic rewards. Extrinsic are things that are outside of us, they're tangible, things like a pay raise or a trophy. But intrinsic rewards sort of fulfill our deepest human needs and desires. Feeling needed, feeling competent at what we do, and feeling a sense of belonging.
For better or for worse, like a lot more publications are tribe focused, right? And YouTube channels too, right? There's a tribe for those who are very much into gaming or into esports. There's a tribe for those who are into cooking. We used to get that out of like our small like groups and villages. Religion became, a central identity piece. Sports has been an identity piece. Religion has decreased for much of the population. And so now in some ways politics is becoming, I think to the detriment of all of us in some ways, the tribe that you aspire to or ascribe to.
Trigger number 5 is reputation.
We tend to pay greater attention to reputable sources of information. And I kind of divide it into a couple major classes. There's authority figures, which have our attention because they have power over us. They can punish us in some kind of way, whether that is a world leader or your immediate boss. But the one that's most important out of all of them is the expert. And we pay attention to experts because we are not able to become an expert in every topic.
One unexpected reputation trigger comes not from, individual authorities or experts, but from the crowd.
It makes sense at a high level because you want to pick a restaurant. What's the first app you're going to open? Probably Yelp, right? But generally, the crowd works really well for telling you a restaurant is great or not because of crowdsourced information. However, a crowd can definitely go astray in a whole bunch of different ways, like on a social media platform. Just because somebody has more likes does not mean they know more about this specific topic.
Trigger number 6 is one of the most playful, I think, and that's the mystery trigger. We love a mystery. This is like the driving force behind the hugely popular genre of true crime.
I call this the compulsion for completion because we are compelled to go and complete a train of thought, a storyline. And when it's not completed, it sticks in our head like a little thorn or in the back of your brain. The greatest and best storytelling has that kind of mystery piece. This is where cliffhangers come from. And the greatest storytellers find a way to subvert our expectations and not just give you the answer, but open up a whole new set of questions that you have to go and answer in the next episode.
Lastly, one of the most powerful triggers of all is acknowledgement. We pay attention to people and things that make us feel seen and heard and validated.
Taylor Swift doing Swiftness where she stalks 5 of her fans and sends them gifts and then does videos about it. And what she's proving is that by caring about a small, one or two or a few of her fans, she's showing she cares about all of her fans. They can put themselves into their shoes and feel that kind of thing. The parasocial relationship is our ability to build what feels like a two-way relationship when it's really a one-sided relationship. And you need to have that in order to have good functioning governments and to have functioning nations and to build tribes that are important. But it goes to the point where a celebrity can go do a drop and make millions of dollars on their e-commerce website.
So guys, I just want to take this moment to acknowledge each and every one of you. I'm just kidding. It really bothers me how that exact sort of trigger is used to take advantage of people in our media environment. All right, so what do we do with this information? Well, I think that being aware of it is really, really powerful in and of itself, which you just did, so yay! Ben and I do discuss this in more detail on the full podcast, and actually it was some serendipitous timing that The Social Dilemma on Netflix happens to deal with some of these themes. I watched it last night and I thought it was a really well done documentary. I hope that it brings more mainstream awareness to these problems. Not sponsored. I just think you guys might like it. So check it out. Check out the pod. Thanks for joining, my dears. I'll see you next time.